Morning, Nika greeted Jack, as they both quietly snuck outside for morning exercises. I don't know about you, but I'm keeping it light after last night. Calling everyone over and hauling all that electrical shit back before the crazies came out to play was a lot more effort than I could have predicted. Sooner we get the damn fabricator, the sooner we won't need to walk everywhere. But the utilities are still going to be a problem even if we get the thing, right? Jack asked, and the Kizan nodded in agreement. Yep, all we need to do is work out where our main lines run and do a cable hook to siphon some power from an office building or something. So hopefully nobody notices, at least until we become completely self-sufficient. With luck, it'll be the same place as the water pipes. How do these utility companies even work here? Jack asked. I can't imagine they'd want to install measuring equipment at random places underground. Is that how it's done where you're from? Nika asked, as she and Jack began stretching. Kind of, but usually attached to the houses and with less danger, Jack shrugged. How does it happen here then? They provide the juice and give you a monthly allowance of it depending on what you pay. Once the cap gets reached, they cut you off from where they are. Even worse, it's based on what they send rather than what you receive. The ring, being as flawed as it is, means it's not very efficient, especially in the cities. In the country it's much easier if the locals know what they're doing, but here it basically means we can siphon enough for ourselves, as long as we don't get too greedy and probably never get caught. Nika grinned. I still think the first thing we should fabricate is some solar panels just in case, though. Sounds good. It'd be great not to have to be so paranoid about watching TV, Jack chuckled, as he began to jog on the spot, before he suddenly stopped, seeing something out of the corner of his eye. He turned around and saw Scifi jogging around the perimeter, who didn't see them as she kept running. Damn, that's not like her, Nika commented worryingly. She's probably plugged into some music. Let's go check on her. It didn't take much effort to catch up to the Skritter, though it was only when Nika overtook her did Scifi realize they were there. Oh, hey guys. Am I making you look bad being up this early? Scifi smiled, tired from the exertion. Not at all, Nika retorted. It's just weird seeing you exercising is all. Sure, I've seen you up at this time before, but that's only when you're pulling all-nighters. Didn't you say you had scans running and didn't need to do anything for the moment? Yeah, I was tired, but I really couldn't sleep that well, Scifi sighed. Last night was a bit much. I just needed to clear my head in meat space for a bit. I'm not surprised, Jack said, as they continued jogging alongside her. I can only imagine what you found on their system that made you want to kill Veal. No, you couldn't, the Skritter shuddered. Or at least I hope you can't. Veal was marked for death for a damn good reason, and I confirmed he did everything accused of and more. At least he got justice, Jack nodded. Or at least what passes for it here. Is it better where you're from? Nika asked. Catching assholes like Veal? Yes and no, Jack shrugged. Many get caught in honey trap operations or from being reported to the authorities in some way. However, rich criminals have a bad habit of getting away with their crimes, usually by corruption in the system. Huh. Guess it doesn't sound that much better where you're from then, Nika shrugged. At least we still did a good job stopping this group from scamming people. An okayish payday for one raid too, Scifi pointed out. Even though it got split with Guerrilla's people, and we picked up some good hardware, although I want to fully format and purge all the electronics before we do anything with them. I'd be worried if you didn't, Jack agreed, as he slowed down his pace to allow his friends to keep up with him, as they passed the remains of the shuttle they had parked by the district wall. So, when do we get to go for the fabricator? And how do we even get it? Guerrilla's going to confirm the location with us when he says there's a window of opportunity to grab it, and he's told us to be ready to head out on short notice, which we pretty much are, Nika told them. Plan is to hook the fabricators up to some cargo drones, one of which we keep for ourselves, and ride out of the complex with our fabricator. Wait a second. Ride out of the complex? Jack asked, eyebrows raised. Seriously, what? You said it's a drone, right? Cargo drones can be pretty big, Scifi pointed out. We'd probably need to attach ourselves with climbing rigs or something, which we have. I can plot us a course that'll take us somewhere safe, so at least we don't need to try and pilot the thing. Just hold on. How reassuring, Jack deadpanned. We shouldn't take Dante for this job then, unless some of us extract a different way. I remember how scared he was when we brought the shuttle here and when we went on that joyride the other day. Since we don't have a location yet, we can't do much pre-planning. Except pack the gear we're probably going to need, but I agree. Nika nodded. But yeah, he might be better suited sitting this one out and standing guard here while we're away. It's probably going to happen sometime during the night, so we'll be traversing the streets again. But at least if Tigrilla and his crew are assisting us, then we should be alright. The same Tigrilla that betrayed us in the past, Jack pointed out. It's something we need to do, but it's still sketchy. True, Scifi acknowledged, before suddenly turning her head back towards the house. You hear that? I think someone else is up. Getting tired already? Nika chuckled, before she heard it too. Alright, let's check it out before they wake everyone up. Still full of energy, the three of them walked back to the living room, spotting Vanya chatting excitedly with someone on her comlink, closely observed by a curious Chio, before the Ilithi noticed them, and moved to intercept the trio. Zvati's awake, the Ilithi told them with a relieved smile. Given the circumstances, it might be best to leave them to it. She's mostly fine, though she's really confused. Apparently, House Malkar got attacked last night by Commander Cocaine. Ha! Jack smirked. What a chat! Glad Sparty's alright too. That means Clan Barzan will probably want to hold their ceremony to honour those that fought against the clowns soon, Nika pointed out. There's no way they were going to do it without her. She saved a hell of a lot of people during the attack. Maybe they'll affix your gauntlet, Jack, Scifi added excitedly. They said they were going to try and improve it too. It's unlikely they'll invite everybody to their compound at the crack of dawn on short notice, Chio pointed out in amusement. Probably tomorrow afternoon once they confirm with Svarti if she's able to make it. They'll want to invite news reporters too. Hodov clans take honor seriously, but they'll still take the opportunity to advance their reputation and interests. Will that be a problem? Jack asked, considering we ended up on the news for our joyride the other day. Not to mention everyone that wants to kill us. While we did appear in the headlines, us messing around on the motorway wasn't the most notable thing to happen that night, so I wouldn't be too worried. And Clan Barzan will go overboard with security this time, Nika pointed out. They can't take the chance not to, even though not many of our enemies would risk trying something at an event like that. Oh no, Scifi disagreed. There are definitely enough crazes after us that it's possible. Possible, but unlikely, Chio allowed. We won't be the only ones there. House Malkar and the Red Legion will bring their own formidable entourages to keep the rest in check, and several of the local groups with an interest in proceedings will also want to keep their people safe. So we shouldn't need to worry about anyone coming to kill us specifically, more the attending factions trying to kill each other if someone throws a bad enough insult, Nika grinned. Speaking of, Jack segued, what about Dr. Grine? Any news on him? Nothing, Chio confirmed. He's probably gone to ground now that it's publicly known he's worked with the clowns. It's easy to hide in the ring if you really want to, even if you don't have some power to disguise yourself. Wait, Scifi pointed out. Could Grine have been... No, Chio smiled patiently, knowing what Scifi was thinking. I don't think it could have been Dr. Grine who tricked us and sent us to Scraphaven. Whoever that was, they were highly skilled in the arcane and in trap building, whereas Grine is a scientist and a mutant. He did have a mage associate, Jack began, before a small noise from the living room alerted them that a few more people had woken up. Alora was quick to walk up to them, rubbing her eyes as Dante pattered along dutifully. I would have been able to tell if there was more than one individual, Chio reasoned. But though it could have been your mysterious mage, that doesn't explain the residue left behind. Just as it could have been one of the numerous other psychos in the ring, Nika shrugged. We can't know for sure, but we have that grey goo to hold on to. It's the only lead we have on whoever that was. Morning, Alora. Hey, Dante, Jack greeted as she reached them. What are we getting up to today? Not much. I want to keep it light and have a somewhat lazy day today, Alora sighed. We have stuff to sort through and we're on call for a heist. With luck, that'll be tonight or in the early hours of the morning so we can get our fabricator set up. I was hoping today we could gather some scrap and raw materials and pile them up. Maybe start going through a few of the other buildings while I'm here to supervise. There may be ancestral structures of my house, but a significant portion of it is beyond repair, and won't serve anybody by continuing to rot. The rest at least might be preservable in some form. We'll be respectful, Alora, Scifi nodded, knowing how important the area was to the Eladri. If just the 5 of us go through it, we can task the others with adding to the pile from scavenge runs, or sort out what we already have. Thanks, Allura nodded in agreement, before snorting in sudden amusement. I can't believe we're all up this early. What's wrong with us? Doesn't look like we're the only ones either, Jack noted, as he saw a group of their new housemates jogging along the perimeter of the district, just like he and Nika like to do. I think we've inspired a few of them. Speaking of, Chio slyly replied, Jack, have you thought about what activity you want to run? Jack began. He really hadn't thought too hard about what he wanted to run for the group, originally thinking about football before Nika borrowed the idea. He did have a few things he could try. Suddenly, he was hit with a spark of inspiration as he saw people jogging around the district, past several piles of wood that were just laying there, giving him an idea. My official activity can be tonight, but until then, Jack grinned. Have any of you heard of parkour? So, Jack nervously began, as a bunch of alien students were all staring at him in excitement. Parkour is the French martial art of running away, and is also sometimes known as free running, and basically focuses on getting from one point to another in the most efficient way possible, and overcoming physical obstacles in the way. So that's why you've made a mess of the garden. Allura chuckled in amusement, joined by the rest of the group that were now looking at Jack's obstacle course with a fresh perspective. It's not that bad, Jack snorted in amusement. They all represent obstacles that you might face if you were doing it in the streets. You just need to get past them. Vault, jump, and climb your way to the end of the course as quick as you can. I haven't made it too risky or anything, and obviously I'm working with what I've got. But if you're not feeling confident... How do we get past that? Chio asked, as she pointed to several large, thick planks of wood that Jack had attached between several poles to act as an impromptu fence next to the district wall, which Jack had set up as the most difficult obstacle, though he'd be there to catch anyone that botched trying to get past it. How indeed? Jack asked mischievously, giving them all a wide grin. Part of the fun is working out how to get past an obstacle, kind of like a puzzle. In that case, Chio shrugged, simply levitating over the fence, making a show of going up and down as several of the spectating students jokingly booed. Technically that counts, Jack chuckled, but that won't help you every time. It's good to try and find different solutions to a problem so you can pick the best one in a given situation. This something you actually did back on Earth, or is it just something cool you've wanted to try? Scifi asked Jack with a cheeky wink. Ha! A lot of us guys got into it during our lunch breaks at school, Jack replied truthfully. The internet loves it and it's cool to do, so we were always competing with each other, until whenever the teachers yelled at us to stop. I wasn't the best though. There were some kids who did gymnastics, so they were naturally better at it. At most, I could do a few vaults and jumps, but that was about it. I wasn't going to try the flippy shit and injure myself. I just thought since a lot of people want to get their exercise in, we could spice it up a bit. I have something planned for tonight when it gets dark too. And you still have something planned for tonight? Allura clarified. All right. Well, I guess we can look forward to that too. Who wants to go first? I'll give it a try, Scifi grinned, as she stepped up to the starting point before looking curiously at the stones in front of her. Jack? How is this an obstacle? Try jumping from one to the other like skipping stones, Jack grinned. Scifi shrugged, then did so, effortlessly jumping from one rock to the other, while using her wings to keep her balance. Very good, Jack praised, though that was just the first obstacle. You're not going to quit, are you? Hell no, Scifi scoffed, before briefly considering the next obstacle, a low, horizontal broomstick that was raised off the ground by a few poles. Quickly leaping over it without much effort, she jogged to the next one. What the fuck? The scritter asked Jack, as she found a ladder held up horizontally in the air, with enough poles that held his weight, though he was still crossing his fingers that there wouldn't be any botches. How the hell did you set all this up in 30 minutes anyway? Did it with the scouts a few times, Jack admitted. Setting stuff like this up is pretty much second nature to me at this point. Scifi shrugged, jumped up high to grab onto the improvised monkey bars, then used her wings to propel herself on top of them to walk across, in a move that completely took Jack by surprise, before the human was quick to join the roaring applause of everyone watching. Jack, that one might be too harsh for the others, the Scritter pointed out, as she carefully dropped to the other side. Actually, you were meant to use your arms to climb underneath it, Jack pointed out, to raucous laughter from everybody else. Thought you said I gotta work this out myself, Scifi grinned, as she practiced using the monkey bars as intended, clearly having fun. I did say that, yes, Jack snorted, not having expected the Scritter to pay that much attention to him, as she made it to several different sized barriers with gaps in space to go over and under, though the Scritter simply used her wings to use all of them as stepping stones, before rushing to the final, larger one that she tried to leap, before clipping the top and tumbling to the ground, with Jack catching her in time. Alright, Jack smirked. Who's next? A bit naff, but it's a bit of fun, Jack grinned, as more and more people decided to join the queue of wannabe freerunners. I'm surprised I haven't seen it yet here. Oh, it's definitely a thing, Nika pointed out. Several species and cultures practice some form of advanced ground traversal, including the Kizan. I guess you don't see it as much because it's something military or security forces would train in, rather than something you do for fun. Still good practice to do, though maybe once we get the fabricator set up, you can make some better obstacles. Or we can find a good place outside to practice, Scifi pointed out. It'll be good to hang out in the city again. I should show you a few of the pieces I have around, assuming they're still there. Pieces? Jack questioned. Her graffiti. It's actually really good, Allura confirmed. It's been a while since you've done one, Scifi. What are you planning? I haven't decided yet. It's gotta fit the location, the Scritter shrugged. I've always wanted to do a piece at Corvin Enterprises or Mirrodin territory for the street cred, but honestly I might go for somewhere hit hard by one of the recent conflicts. Kinda like a tribute piece or something. That could be a good idea as long as you don't piss anyone off, Chia pointed out. Only if they deserve it, Scifi grinned. No mum and pop shops, but I'd do a Corv Mart if I could. Careful if you do, Nika warned. Last thing you want is for Corvin Enterprises to catch you and make you a contestant on Hellring or one of their other fucked up game shows. I know, Scifi rolled her eyes. I'm not suicidal. I just try and go for one of their billboards in the neutral districts. Sounds fun, Jack grinned. I suck at art, but I can always keep a lookout. Speaking of, Nika interrupted, turning serious, we need to work out what we need to prepare for our heist. No idea on location, so we should have this stuff out and ready to chuck into a bag. I'll normally be taking a lot already, Scifi pointed out. Data taps, tag erasers, scanners, that kind of thing. But most important of all is we use burner comlinks and either wipe or destroy them afterwards. Maybe ditch another one nearby just in case we need to contact the others as part of a fallback plan. A little pricey, but good practice, Chia acknowledged. Don't want anyone to link us to the scene. I would also say we pack emergency food and stims just in case we're caught in a bad spot. At least this time we can afford to be trapped for a day if the worst should happen while the battle lines shift. Extra bags, Jack added, grinning at Scifi. We kind of forgot those last time and had to improvise. Heh, at least it worked out, the Scritter grinned back. Don't worry, we have some that can be unfurled if needed. Extra loot is always good, especially if we're stealing from a corp. That's always true. On that note, your rig should be on top of whatever stealth clothing you're wearing, Nika cautioned. Make sure they can hold your body weight and whatever stuff you're carrying too. You'll all have plenty of carabiners and spare cables to attach you to our escape route, so just make sure you're able to move and get there if we need to run. So we need to prepare what we can while trying to keep the load light, Allura sighed. I guess we should mostly take things we can afford to leave behind in a pinch and make sure we eat well before we go there. Great, Jack sighed. Then let's narrow down what we'll need. Good evening, everyone, Jack grinned, as she shined a torch right up against his face. It was evening now, and after relaxing most of the day, and having received a VIP invitation from Clan Barzum for the next day, many of the students were now lazily sitting around the fire pit they had recently added, next to one of the allotments set aside for crops. The fire crackled with lowly burning embers, sending a few sparks into the dark night sky. Jack allowed a moment to silently pass, as he gave a theatrical sinister chuckle, as seen the confused faces. A tradition from my world with people our age is telling scary stories at night, and that is what we shall be doing. Try not to get scared." He ended with another menacing chuckle, happy to see that at least a few others around the circle looked taken by the atmosphere. There was once a boy who lived in a small town, surrounded by thick woods, and children often dared to play by the edge of the forest. But there was one rule everyone knew: never venture too deep, especially when the fog rolled in. Legend spoke of the Slenderman, a faceless, abnormally tall man with long tentacle-like arms, who was said to lurk in the heart of the woods, waiting for unsuspecting children. Several of the faces around the camp grew nervous as Jack told the story, which he simply recalled as best he could from various creepypastas he had seen online. However, it seemed to do the trick for his captivated audience. One evening, after a day of playing hide-and-seek, the boy and his friends noticed one of them was missing. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ground, and a thick fog began to blanket the forest. Panicked, they called out for their friend, but there was no response. Bravely, or perhaps foolishly driven by concern for their friend, they ventured into the enveloping fog. Their calls for their lost friend echoed through the trees. Hours seemed to pass as they searched, but the more they walked, the deeper the fog became, and the more disoriented they felt. Suddenly, the boy stumbled upon a drawing on the ground. It was a circle made of twigs, with a cross in its center, a known symbol connected to the Slenderman. Nearby, pinned to a tree, was a crudely drawn picture of a faceless figure with numerous arms. The boy's heart raced, as he knew, right at that moment, that the legends were real. He ended that sentence by lowering his voice into a low growl, building up the suspense. Panicking, they decided to head back, but as they tried to retrace their steps, they realized the path they had taken was gone, replaced by an endless, fog-covered maze. The only sound was the crunch of their footsteps and their own shaky breaths. "Didn't any of them have a comlink?" Scifi asked, confused. "Just use the map setting to retrace your steps or something." "Rule of horror, Scifi," Nika snorted in amusement. "Then," Jack continued, a faint rustle echoed from the trees behind them. Turning around, they saw a glimpse of an impossibly tall, faceless silhouette lurking in the fog. The Slenderman. The children ran, their breaths ragged, hearts pounding in their chests. Every so often they see the looming figure of the Slenderman, just beyond their vision, sometimes appearing ahead of them, as if he could teleport at will. Eventually, somehow, the children were able to escape the woods and ran all the way home. Escaped, or allowed to leave. Their friend was never found, despite many search attempts. Eventually the boy grew up and moved away, leaving the bad memories behind. But every year, on the anniversary of their friend's disappearance, he would find a drawing on his doorstep, no matter where he went. It was a circle made of twigs, with a cross in its center. Like an eye, always watching. The Slenderman never forgets. Jack finally ended his story, enunciating his words to sound as dramatic as possible. Once a collective sigh had escaped the mouths of everyone around them, the students gave an enthusiastic round of applause at the story, and there were even several volunteers to go next. It was a fun several hours as Jack learned about various monsters and legends that he wouldn't have thought would be possible, until he, Alora, Scifi, Chiu, and Nika all received the same message on their comlinks. It was time to get to work.